they can't, they're having to import water, for goodness sakes, or if you're going to drink anything out of the tap, they want you to boil it for about 5 minutes before you even dare use it.
Well, I believe that Chattooga and Floyd are also being recommended to boil their water right now as well.
Governor Brian Kemp has declared a state of emergency in those two counties right now.
Yes, and I believe we have some footage from what happened there this weekend.
They were... In fact, National Weather Service said rainfall of up to an inch an hour by causing creeks, streams, roadways, urban areas to experience unusually high levels of water. Up to 12 inches of rain was estimated to have fallen in the area, according to Kemp's executive station. This looks like something that happens to us, Brittany, when a hurricane comes along.
Yeah, I can't believe how much rain they've had, and just all across the country. Kentucky had this a few weeks ago. We saw Mississippi also struggle with this. It is a big concern with all the rain coming down here lately.
Extremely dangerous, life-threatening situations. We've already lost lives and things like this, and places where you wish you'd had some sort of a device that could move the water over where we need it. They keep telling us that the Colorado River's drying up, so send it there.
I know, move it out west.
Yes,
I mean, California
absolutely
doesn't have water either, so
yeah, there you go.
They could use it.
So this flash flood emergency is still in effect, according to Somerville, the Floyd State Park up there in Chattooga County, which is very north Georgia. It's just below the Tennessee line, right around Chattanooga and Rome and places like that.
Yeah, I believe it's 90 miles from Atlanta.
Yeah, so it's as of 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, a service advisory to avoid a non-emergency travel. Another round of emergency rainfall, they said, or enter the area. I mean, it's just said the weather the water said just comes up, and it's continuing to come up even more, according to people who live in places like Lively, Georgia. They say that the flooding is one of the worst that she has ever seen. The people that live up there and have been residents there for decades.
Well, and I don't know what we would do if we had that much rain either. I mean, we've been pretty lucky this year with no hurricanes so far. But, I mean, we're getting lots of rain.
And September is the most active tropical month as a general rule, and we're also looking at some of the things in the tropics. There's one out there that's just going to be a fish storm, as we refer to it. It's just going to stay out in the Atlantic somewhere and blow itself out. But there is another that might be coming in a direction, so we'll keep you posted on all the tropics that are going on. We'd like to know what's going on in your area, too, because this is just god-awful.
Yeah. So let us know if you've experienced any of this crazy flooding and what you guys are doing to stay safe.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we're going to be talking also, and we'll get into more in-depth this week, because more and more reaction is coming out to President Joe Biden's unbelievably god-awful speech that he made Thursday night in front of Independence Hall that looked more like it was from Dante's Inferno or something. I have never seen anything. I've never heard a president of the United States, as bad as some of them have been, talk to Americans the way this guy did.
No, and he definitely made a very strong statement about people that support Donald Trump and that are part of this MAGA crowd. And I mean, we didn't even see Lincoln do this when they were in the Civil War. He was still trying to unite people and get the fighting to stop. The so-called president said the battle for the soul of America, as Raymond Arroyo said when he was sitting in for Laura Ingraham on Thursday. He said, if we needed a pope, we'd have a conclave. We don't need. This guy is supposed to. Remember, he campaigned on being the great uniter. His inauguration speech that I'm sure he doesn't remember until somebody either advises him. Photo, Bill.
Dr. Gell. Yeah, there you see, and that's one of the ones we happened to say because we knew that was going to be coming down from the social media. And this is the tragedy of this is that the people actually believe this.
It's crazy
that there are people who believe this crap. We see all sorts of polls now saying that the Democrats are suddenly hitting the comeback trail, and we're expecting this big red wave coming up here, and we're less than, I think, 70 days out of the November elections.
Yeah, and I don't think that people should buy into anything that they're saying. Everyone needs to go out. They need to vote, and we don't have this in the bag yet. So
no,
we need to make sure that we're out there voting, especially when you see something like this speech that was very divisive, and especially when people are so worried about the president being so nice and so lovely in the office.
Yeah.
And one of the things, yeah, and Mike Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas, Fox News contributor, said to Raymond Thursday night, said, it's just, he said, the thing that's the most disturbing is that a lot of people start to believe it, and that the best thing that the Democrats have going for them is that the media.
That's what they always have going for
I
them.
have never seen, all of a sudden, it was interesting that the alphabet networks didn't carry this live. And they started making comments on it and showing lowlights. And
Because they
making
wanted
these-
to talk about how wonderful it was. They didn't want people to
Yes.
see how awful it really
how,
was.
how patriotic this speech was, which is discussed. So one of the things that just quoting from old Uncle Joe is that MAGA Republicans do not accept the Constitution.
It's
What-
amazing how they define the Constitution. I mean,
Yeah.
anything that doesn't fit their narrative?
Their
or?
precious, it threatens their precious democracy. Mr. President, we're not a democracy. We are a representative republic. We are democratic type, but we are not a democracy. As Benjamin Franklin always used to say, a democracy is considered, his definition of a democracy was two lions having an argument and a lamb arguing over what's for dinner.
Oh, I've never heard that, Bill.
Well, there you go. There you go. You can add that to your repertoire.
Yes.
But this speech was so dangerous, so scary, and here he's got two Marines standing behind him. Who comes up with the aesthetics for this thing? Is that the same people that came up with the name Fly Formula for getting baby formula in here?
So, Bill, have you seen the thing that went viral on the internet? It started in China, but it's called Dark Brandon. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've heard about Dark. I know about Let's Go Brandon.
Yes.
But what's it? Tell me about Dark Brandon.
So it's like a caricature of Joe Biden, and he has like lasers coming out of his eyes, and I mean, it's just, I mean, it went viral. So I'm wondering if these people the people in his office, they're all in their 20s running the show, and they just thought, oh my gosh, this is going viral. This is something that people really love. And they decided, you know what, we're just going to make him really look like this in real life.
They have no perspective. Apparently, they've not studied history. They don't know anything about it, and they've grown up in this woke culture. Wokeism didn't just start, like day before yesterday. It's
No.
been going on for a long time. The communists have been taking over our public school system, our pulpits, and our media for about the last 50 years or more.
Well, do you think the fact that they live like in an echo chamber plays into the fact that they're so out of touch with what the American people want?
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It is, but this is so frightening from a standpoint of they've just hired 87,000 IRS agents because you want somebody to answer the phone when you call the IRS.
No, I actually just don't want to deal with the IRS.
Exactly.
Simplify the tax code and let's move on.
87,000, maybe more border agents might
police
help
officers?
out.
I'd take that
police
too.
officers, and the sense of denial when Corinne Jean-Pierre, who may be the most, I thought Jen Psaki was bad, but this woman is, or I guess she identifies, I guess, as a woman, is Psaki on steroids.
Well, at least Saki could lie convincingly.
Mm-hmm.
This woman, she's just terrible.
And considering and saying that this wasn't a political speech and standing up for America is never political. I mean, this is just disgusting when he insulted, and then he wants to walk it back. Of course,
He never
can't
said that,
remember-
Bill. Didn't you
he never
see
said,
that?
Yeah, that's right. He never said that. When Peter Doocy, finally one of the few reporters who actually asked an intelligent question in the press corps anymore from Fox News, asked him, "Well, do you think that all of the people who voted for Joe Biden hate this country or want to destroy this country or hate the Constitution?" And he said, "No. He said, people that vote for Donald Trump don't feel that way." That's not what you said night before last.
It's amazing. It's incredible how these people will turn on a dime. They never tell the truth, and they're always backpedaling.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever fits their narrative or however they think they can win something.
So we're going to be going through some of the lowlights of this during our broadcast all this week, and we'd like to get your comments. So like us on Facebook, or what's left of it, or what is it, Meta?
Meta, yeah.
Yes, Meta, Instagram, Spotify, Lizard Spit, wherever you get, wherever you.
There's a lot of places.
A lot of
YouTube,
different places,
Rumble.
yeah. So you can leave comments there. We'd like to hear your comments, and get out the fact that you better get to the polls and vote for Republicans. Don't vote for anybody that's got a D by their name. And how in the world they start saying that you talk about people not paying attention. When you start saying that the Democrats are increasing their lead or excelling in the polls, and increasing their numbers and approval ratings, and that they may keep the House or the Senate or both, that's a frightening thought.
It absolutely is. And they are literally making it sound like Republicans are losing it. So they're trying to disenfranchise people from going out to the polls and voting. Don't believe them. Everyone needs to go out and vote. And I'm not saying Republicans are the answer to all your problems, but the Democrats are definitely part of the problem.
These are the people that actually started have caused this problem, and they're the ones now telling you they're the ones who can fix it.
Yep.
And it's disgusting. They are. You keep hearing people saying we don't want career politicians, and who did we just elect? A guy who's been in there 50 years and has done nothing except line his own pockets.
Well, and he's never been good. He's never been a good politician. It's like, this is what we have coming out of Delaware. This is all you guys have. This is it. And now we have to have him as president, which we've seen what a disaster that's turned into.
Such a repressive state. How many days can you vote in Delaware?
I don't think they have any early voting, do they?
They don't.
That's what I thought.
One. And yet we here in Georgia have these Jim Crow laws. In fact, it's not Jim Crow, it's Jim Eagle.
I don't even know how these people come up with this stuff. Their narratives are just, it's insane.
You tell a lie long enough, as Goebbels, one of Hitler's lieutenants, for those of you who may have had history in the last 30 years and don't know who that is, I may have to explain to you who Hitler is. But one of his lieutenants always used to say, you tell a lie long enough and pretty soon people begin to believe it. And Hitler even said, when you tell a big lie, that's easier to believe than a little one.
And I think that that's the rules that they're playing by. I mean, you see them tell these crazy lies and you're like, how can anyone believe this? And then people do. And it's like, how? How is this happening?
And then it's repeated over and over again by the media. And sooner or later, there's where we are.
And I think that is the biggest problem, is that the media is in bed with the Democrats. And they are not honest about what's happening, and they refuse to tell the truth.
I think if you did a survey of, and you actually got the truth from the people who work in the media, I'll bet you probably over 90% of them voted for Democrats or are Democrats.
I mean, you've been in the media for how many years, Bill? Did you ever have these conversations with people?
As long I've been in as long as Biden's been in office and longer.
Lucky you. So you covered Biden for that long.
You know, I noticed over time that the media was getting further and further to the left. As I was working in newsrooms, television newsrooms, and then in radio, that the kids who were coming in knew more and more about less and less. Didn't even, and many of them didn't even know which end of a camera to hold. We had to spend the first 6 months when they were working for us teaching them how to do video. I said, what did they teach you for 4 years, for goodness sakes, if you got this journalism degree?
Activism.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. All right. Coming up next, one of our ironies of the day. Boy, those solar panels are working great. We'll be talking about that and more coming up next on Get Real America. Happy Labor Day.
The last 3 years, Georgia's been tested in ways we could never imagine. And it fell to Governor Brian Kemp to successfully lead us during these troubling times. Georgia is still first in the nation for business. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in state history. Today, people come to Georgia to succeed, start a business, raise a family. Kemp has always backed the blue, stopping the radical left from defunding local police. He passed a tough new election integrity bill that, as the governor likes to say, made it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And while some during COVID-19 shut down their economy, Kemp kept our schools and businesses open while keeping Georgians safe. A long list of accomplishments: fighting human trafficking, increasing teacher pay, greater access to quality health care. A governor who works for Georgians. All of us. Governor Brian Kemp.
Governor, I promise you, whatever challenges come our way, I will always lead the California way.
You
I say that's the California way,
guys are really awesome. Thank you so much.
based on compassion,
I mean, if we're going to be realistic, they pay you to be homeless here.
common sense. Clean and sober is one of the biggest damn mistakes this country's ever made. We all need to self-medicate periodically. Telling the truth. Telling the truth. Treasuring our diversity.
Success to hit my
Telling the truth. Following science. Protecting our planet.
Love like yours will surely come my way. Hey, hey, hey.
Gavin Newsom, courage through crisis.
Welcome back to Get Real America. Happy Labor Day.
We are very excited to share with you that solar panels are going well in the country.
Yes, there's a string of recent fires that on the Amazon fulfillment centers and other facilities that have forced the e-commerce giant to temporarily shut down the rooftop solar panels at their facilities, blamed for costly blazes. So your solar panels are getting real solar. They're absorbing so much of that sun energy, they're actually catching fire.
So it's too much sun for them?
Yeah, too much sun. It's almost like heard some talk show guys recently saying he was driving through. One of them said he was driving through like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's passing this wind farm, and he said none of the windmills are turning, and he was wondering why. And they said, well, the wind is blowing too hard. You can't make this up. The wind was blowing too hard for the windmills. So the solar panels are on fire. And this is what we're going to be depending on for our energy for your electric cars that we're going to be building here, unfortunately, very shortly. These environmentally unfriendly electric cars.
I mean, the more they push this environmental stuff, the more it comes back and like blows up in their face, literally.
But they will not, they double down on stupid. This is the most amazing thing, is that when they call people science deniers, for those of us who don't want to go by, get a COVID shot or something along those lines. You're denying science if we don't want to put kids in masks, when all the science says, no, they shouldn't be in masks. No, you shouldn't be closing the schools. And no, you shouldn't put ethanol in gasoline. It's water-based. It's not good for the engines. You don't get as many joules out of a gallon of ethanol. Joules, by the way, in case you don't, is a measurement of energy in petroleum or other products. And if you had pure gasoline in the car, you'd probably get another 5-10 miles a gallon out of it, as opposed to what ethanol does, besides damaging the engine. And that study proves it. And there's more pollution with ethanol. And the people who were pushing it for years, actually some of them got honest in one environmental group and said, wait a minute, we've made a mistake, go back to Congress, tell them, let's get rid of ethanol. Nope.
Not gonna
Let's
do it.
make more of it, according to Uncle Joe.
Well, I mean, how much money do you think they have invested in this environmental stuff? They're not going back.
When you have Gretchen Whitmer, she's now the governor of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to shut down another one of those pipelines up there.
Is she really?
Yeah.
I don't understand. People are already struggling and they just keep pushing policies that are going to hurt everyday Americans. It doesn't make any sense to me. And Gretchen Whitmer is probably one of the worst governors we've had in this country. I mean,
Oh yeah,
Gavin
she's
Newsom's,
awful. Yeah, she's Gavin Newsom with a skirt.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel bad for people in Michigan, but it's like, you guys voted for this person and hopefully they are smart enough to vote her out.
Why do you keep voting for these people over and over? As Charles Barkley, who ran for governor of Alabama some years ago, and he was the black basketball player, now commentator on ESPN and other sports facilities. He ran as a Republican,
I'm surprised they still let him on ESPN, honestly.
Yeah, and they asked, and as some of his buddies, from the black community, said, "Why are you running as a Republican?" He said, "Well, you've been voting for black and Democrat candidates for the last 50 years. How is it working out for you?" They keep repeating the same commentaries all the time, and when they come to the black community, they say, "I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this for you," and it never happens. And anybody in the community mostly will tell you, we don't ever see these people except during election time. And they give us this song and dance about what they're going to do for us, and then of course we never see them. But they continue to vote for them is beyond our comprehension.
Well, I think also part of the problem, Bill, I'm seeing a lot of Democrats refusing this cycle to debate their opponent. How do you know what someone stands for if they aren't willing to defend their policies up against their opponent?
Here we are right here in Georgia, which is one of the key states and the big focal point after we sent those 2 empty suits up to Washington in the last election. And this is the crazy thing about Georgia, is that you have to get at least 50%, a little over 50% of the vote.
I think it's a terrible policy, Bill. I'm just saying.
But Senator Perdue won his re-election in the November voting, won by 40,000 votes. 40,000, but he didn't get 50% of the vote because of a libertarian candidate. Libertarians throw monkey wrenches into these camps because most people will vote for the libertarian as opposed to the Republican.
I was going to say they don't take any away votes from the Democrats.
No,
only from the Republicans.
Yeah, it only seems to affect Republicans. So he wins by an overwhelming re-election to a degree, but because he didn't get 50% of the vote, that threw it to a runoff.
But
with John Ossoff.
Well, I think that this plays into kind of what happened in Alaska with that ranked choice voting. It's kind of the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but you go into another election and disenfranchise half of the voters, and they don't show back up.
It's the reason Sarah Palin didn't get elected to Congress up at now. Of course, she's back up in November, but this is to fulfill that empty seat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe but she was up against there was another Republican that jumped in, and that's also one of the problems, that you'll have 7 Republicans jump into the race, and then you got 1 Democrat. So it's almost like game over.
I know. They handpick their people, like the most terrible people they can find that will do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
That's their person. Where Republicans, I will say, I love that we have a variation of how we think.
So, but explain what happened in Alaska, because I still don't understand this. You vote for your. I thought you just counted the votes, and whoever got the most votes is the one who wins. That's not exactly how this system works.
No, because if you have all Republicans putting a 1, that's my first choice. And you have all Democrats putting 1 by their first choice.
Yes.
None of them are going to choose their second choice as a Republican. They're going to choose it as probably the 3rd ranked person, which is usually an independent of some sort, or more of a rhino Republican, I would say, because Sarah Palin is definitely she's definitely an America First type candidate.
Yes, absolutely.
Which people sometimes think that they're very radical. So you're not going to have people choosing her as their second choice. So you have everyone's third choice candidate rising to number 1. Does that make sense?
No, but there we are, and that's how this person got elected to fill the remaining, I guess, about 65 or 80 days, 70 days of this seat that's left.
But...
Yeah, it really is. So there'll be another election coming up in November, and you have to get to the poll. I am sorry, and vote in person. Don't fall there. They're still trying to come up with this ballot box stuff. Donald Trump did not lose the election at the polls, in-person voting. He lost at these ballot boxes that were dropped off, and all of the irresponsibility that was going along with them.
Well, and we continue to see them push these ballot boxes. We've restricted them in Georgia, but I don't think that they should exist at all. There is no reason for people to have to do, I think we have, 30
Paid for by Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, they've banned his money in Georgia, thank goodness, but...
And of course, the Democrats have their shorts in a wad over that, but they've at least put them behind closed doors
Yes.
So and also monitored by camera, so that you can only vote like during business hours. You can't come along, because we had footage that they keep telling you that if you deny that we're evil because we're denying the results of the 2020 election. Well, we have every reason to believe that to deny the legitimacy of the 2020 election. When you've seen the real footage of these ballot boxes being stuffed, suddenly somebody comes up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They throw these ballots in. They're not even folded, so you know they weren't mailed. And then they're only voting for one candidate. They're not voting all the way down. They're not voting for Senate. They're not voting for Congress. They're not voting for their local election. Only president. And suddenly, 99.9% of those were for Joe Biden. The math doesn't even add up.
Well, the other problem with the ballot boxes, even though they are secured, who is actually calling someone out for putting 7 ballots in the box or 15 ballots in the box? No one's saying anything about that.
Who's coming to pick up the ballots? And
That's a
taking
great
them
question.
where?
Well, and do we see a chain of custody on those things, or is that just we need to trust our election officials?
We didn't have a chain of custody that I can recall here in Chatham County and Savannah, that of who was going to pick these up and where they were, how they were stored, or anything else. There was no accountability for those whatsoever, and yet we're considered the deniers.
Oh, we're extremists, Bill. Didn't you know?
Yeah, well, at least that's what I've been told. And once again, you tell a lie long enough, and people start to believe it. So, as a responsibility, the most important thing that you do as a citizen of this country is to vote. That is the number one responsibility that you have as a citizen of this representative democracy. As Benjamin Franklin told a lady after they came out after the convention in Philadelphia, she said, "Sir, what have you given us?" He said, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." And when people don't go and don't pay attention to politics, they don't go to the polls and vote, but the bad people do, this is what you get.
Yes, it is. So get out there and vote. And after this break, we are going to talk about Labor Day and honoring people that have contributed to our community.
Georgia's the worst, according to Stacey Abrams.
I am tired of hearing about being the best state in the country to do business when we are the worst state in the country to live. We are the worst state in the country to live.
Oh, bless her heart. Georgia leads the nation because Brian Kemp is governor. He reopened Georgia first, brought thousands of jobs, and Kemp's cut taxes to help families deal with Biden's inflation. Brian Kemp's kept Georgia the best place to live.
My fellow Americans, it looks like some things have changed. Are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents?
You want an abortion? Get one!
Younger parents aren't sure that an appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
When I drive into a neighborhood and there are American flags, it's a message of white supremacy.
I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result in an erosion of the American spirit.
We need to completely dismantle the police department.
If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom, and freedom is special and rare. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise. As long as we remember our first principle and believe in ourselves, the future will always be ours. Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with 3 little words: we, the people. We, the people, are free. Once you begin a great movement,
Do you have the video?
there's no telling where it'll end.
Welcome back to Get Real America. It is Labor Day, and Bill, we want to honor you and something that you have contributed to in our community. And right now we have a clip from Buddy Carter.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in honor of the inspiring career of Mr. Bill Edwards, a native resident of Savannah, Georgia. After graduating from Groves High School, Bill went on to attend both the University of Mississippi and Armstrong Atlantic State University, completing his education with a master's in the arts and communication. After serving in his high school JROTC, he furthered his interest in the Army by serving in the Army ROTC at Ole Miss and eventually joining the U.S. Army Signal Corps. He continued this career until he reached the rank of captain in a military intelligence unit in Savannah. Aside from his military career, Bill was blessed with a loving wife and 7 grandchildren that he adores. Once he left the service, he focused his energy into a successful career in radio broadcasting, eventually becoming host of what is now AM Savannah on News Radio. Bill's commitment was rewarded when he was recognized by the Associated Press for sportscasting excellence and when he won the honor of Savannah's favorite talk station for 3 years in a row. I'm so grateful for Bill Edwards and his tireless commitment to improving his community. Bill is an outstanding Georgian, and I thank him for all he has done for his community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome back. And I think that's the first time that Bill Edwards has ever seen that clip.
I'm flabbergasted. Usually somebody who talks for a living isn't speechless, but this is it.
Yes. So Labor Day is about celebrating contributions of people in the workforce, and you had definitely contributed a lot to Savannah.
Well, thank you. I'm overwhelmed. It's just thank you, Congressman Carter. That was awfully kind, and I certainly do appreciate it. I have been overwhelmed by the great response that I've received about starting this show, about losing my radio broadcast, and the job was simply terminated. Don't blame the local people. It wasn't their fault. It was up the line, corporate somewhere. But
do you have some irony in that?
In this, yeah, in this business, when I was first hired to do that morning radio talk show, and you told me I'd be there 10 years, I'd have thought, yeah, okay, well that's pretty good, yeah, but probably not. But if you'd told me I'd been there over 20, I'd have stuck in a rubber room in a jacket. That's just almost unprecedented in this business. But thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. I'm honored. And so, vote for Carter.
There you go.
Meanwhile, but this being Labor Day, I always wondered as a kid why Labor Day was a holiday. Why do they call it Labor Day if people ain't working? I didn't realize it meant honoring labor, labor unions. Yes. that came up with the whole tradition. But a big salute. We have the fastest growing port in America, if not the world, right here in Savannah. We just finished a harbor deepening project, 25 years too late, but we finally got it. We finally got it done. And with the big Panamax ships that are coming in here now, and what we have done, and the amount of product that comes in, and we have what's called a 50-50 port. There are very few of those, which means we export as much as we import. It is an amazing process. As small as that river is, some people just call it a big ditch. More than anything else, and the way that the longshoremen here, we have the greatest relationship between labor and management of any place in the world, and it's thanks to some wonderful people that work out there. The CEOs that we have had at the Georgia port have been nothing short of spectacular, and the ILA, the International Longshoremen's Association, that works out there as well. The stevedores, the people who operate the cranes. If you go out to the Georgia port or any port, for folks, I'm also familiar with the Wando port in Charleston, and see how this well-oiled machine of trucks coming in, they park next to a ship, this device comes down, picks up these containers off of the truck, brings it up on the ship, and another truck is pulling in right under that, and this thing just goes off smoothly like clockwork. And they turn those ships around usually within 6 to 8 hours, maybe some 18 hours or so, and get them out. And of course, the longer the ship stays in port, the more money it costs shippers. So the object is to get those things turned around, and our port does it better than any other port in the country. It's why it's the fastest growing. We're continuing to grow. The vision that we've had, one of the reasons that it's been so successful, Brittany, is that we had CEOs who started building warehouses and starting building facilities. We have room to grow, And so they've started building all these warehouses. So when people like Target were coming along and they're looking for a new place to bring in their product, they would go like to Charleston or to Jacksonville and say, we need these warehouses, we need this amount of space, and they'll say, well, okay, we'll build it for you. They come to Savannah and said,
We have it.
turnkey, and all of a sudden we get the Walmart distribution, Target distribution, IKEA. The list just goes on, and the work that's done in our ports, and they did not shut down during the pandemic. It was 24/7. When I heard, that the idiot in chief in the White House say that he was going out to Los Angeles because there was a problem with our supply chain, and they had 150 ships sitting offshore waiting to come in. He said, "I'm going to go out there, and we're going to encourage them to operate 24 hours a day." I said, "They're not operating 24 hours a day now."
They have strict rules in the state of California for labor. So that is part of the reason that they weren't, is because it's part of California's laws that inhibit them from working 24 hours a day, which is kind of crazy.
Well, and the next problem is, I think that your truck can't be more than 5 years old.
Yeah.
You know anything about diesel engines? They don't get broken in for 5 years, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, California makes no sense. We could go on and on about that. But going back to the Georgia,
what a loss.
But going back to the Georgia ports, the other thing that I love is when I'm out in public and someone works at the ports, people are like, "Oh, what do you do at the ports?" It's a very community-based place. It's a very respected place to work. And if you work for the ports, you're as good as gold here.
That's exactly right. And Griff Lynch and all of it, he is the CEO of the Georgia ports. He and his staff are just unbelievable. And like I said, the vision that they've had, and he's taken over for people who also had that vision as well, continuing to expand, thinking about how the market is going to be not 5 years from now, but 10 years from now. You have to make these plans 5, 10, 15 years out. And the great job that our stevedores do, and everybody, ILA out at the port, is beyond measure. And had that shut down, because one of our biggest exports here in Georgia is chickens, and our agriculture is our biggest business here in Georgia. We are one of the few states that if you actually separated Georgia from the rest of the United States, we could be self-sustaining. We grow wheat. We have cattle farms. We have dairy farms. We grow pecans, or as we say here in the sunny South, pecans, peanuts, chickens. And
peaches.
Peaches.
Don't forget the peaches.
Yes, don't forget the peaches. We're called the Peach State. We had a better PR man than South Carolina. There's a county in South Carolina that produces more peaches than the entire state of Georgia.
Oh, wow.
But we had a better PR man. Nevertheless, you got the Georgia peaches. You've got and all of the other products that we produce. Some of the Georgia clay that we sometimes, if you get it on your fuse and stuff, you may not like it, but it sure is good for making stuff. So we have everything that we need to be sustainable here in the beautiful state of Georgia, and our agriculture people have done a fantastic job. We had a fantastic agriculture commissioner in Gary Black. He ran for Senate, didn't get it, but he was so good, and they started something called Georgia Grown. So usually when you go into some of these stores now, you will see the green sticker, yep. Georgia Grown, whether it's peanuts, honey, you name it, salt. All kinds of good stuff. So they got the Georgia Grown sticker. The other people that we want to thank, and the port can do one thing, but it's kind of like if you're a great quarterback. If you got nobody to throw the ball to, it doesn't matter any difference how good a quarterback you are. And we want to thank the truckers. I'd mentioned the trucks, that were coming in, and professional truck drivers, approximately number about 3.6 million here in the United States. And had those guys and gals gone on strike or shut down during COVID, we'd all be starving to death now.
Yeah, and we still have a lot of shortages with truck drivers too. So they're working longer hours, they're doing more loads, and I think people don't appreciate them enough for what they do. And I was able to talk to some truck drivers during some of the truck rallies that were going on here in the U.S. Yeah. And one of them was like, thank goodness we can travel throughout the Southeast, and we don't have to go to places like California because of, all of the requirements on their trucks that they have to meet, and just the crazy stuff that they have to go through to even go into California. So very lucky that we're able to grow a lot of this stuff locally, and they can also do shorter trips, be home for dinner. So
The most amazing thing is that people don't realize just how important that. How do you think all that food gets on the shelves at the grocery store in the first place?
Well,
do you think that it's like? Do you think it's like it's Hogwarts, where Dumbledore just waves the magic wand and poof, there it is?
There's plenty of people in cities that think that we don't need farms because we have grocery stores. So
that's
that's
right.
An interesting concept.
It reminds me of my mom used to say when she'd visit our uncle up in a little place called Swainsboro, Georgia, and she wouldn't drink milk when she was there because it came out of cows, because milk comes out of bottles.
Oh.
And so she wasn't going to drink that milk that came out of cows when she was a kid. And so you have people now, this was actually a survey that was done, and you had this kid to say, why do we, I don't know why we need so many farms when we have grocery stores. That's a level of stupidity, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
I don't either. I mean, it's a product of the public school system, I would think.
And it reminds me of, when Jay Leno used to do jaywalking, his man on the street interview type things, and he would point to he would stop some young lady and say, and point to an American flag waving across the street, and how many stars on that flag? Oh, it says, I don't know, it's moving too fast, I can't count them.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, this goes on and on and on. Education just ain't what it used to be.
No, it's not, and we'll be back right after this break.
The Dalai Lama's got another award.
Wasteful Washington spending is killing us with inflation and sky-high prices on groceries and gas. Senator Raphael Warnock voted to allow hundreds of millions of dollars of COVID relief funds to be squandered on a luxury resort in Florida, a New Jersey soccer stadium, a ski area in Iowa. Tell Senator Warnock to start voting against reckless spending to stop inflation. Georgia families need cheaper gas and food, not frivolous luxuries in other states.
Reckless spending, driving up inflation, higher prices that hurt Georgians.
I'm trying to save $2, and Senator Raphael Warnock votes to spend almost $2 trillion.
$140 to fill my truck. And Senator Warnock voted to allow $140 million to be spent building a resort in Florida?
$15 for burgers. Senator Warnock voted to allow $15 million to be spent on a soccer stadium in New Jersey.
Tell Senator Warnock to stop voting for reckless spending. Stop.
Stop. Please stop.
Welcome back to Get Real America, and we are about to get real about all of the awards that Obama seems to keep getting, which is just impressive.
Oh, this is good stuff. I mean, once again, from the You Can't Make This Stuff Up department, he has another undeserved accolade. He's gotten an Emmy Award.
I mean, was it for acting? Or what
it was because he was acting as president.
Yeah.
But he got the outstanding narrator for an episode in that series that he did with Michelle Maybell that they got all those multi-millions of dollars from the left-wing cretins at Netflix. If you're a subscriber to Netflix, stop it.
Yeah, Netflix is producing the worst woke media that I've ever seen. It's disgusting. And I will say, I can't believe, it's such an odd thing for an ex-president to do.
He was doing some of this stuff when he was still president. And we were wondering, why is he going off doing National Geographic specials, or what was that place that he was wandering around out in the woods someplace with this guy that was producing these nature shows or something? Didn't he have a job to do in Washington? But maybe the more he stayed away from it, the better it was.
Well, and he was like the celebrity president. That's really what he was. And he
was media made.
Oh, yes.
That's what Rush Limbaugh used to say. He said, the reason that they can't touch me is because the media didn't make me. I made myself. The reason that they hated Donald Trump because the media didn't make Donald Trump. He made himself.
Yep, and the funny thing about Donald Trump is they all loved him until he ran as a Republican.
Yeah. It was just unbelievable, all the awards that he got and everything else. And so now they're saying that he's actually envious of the Dalai Lama, who just won an Emmy Award because he didn't. In fact, that naturally, of course, the media is just agog with praise for this thing, saying that the Associated Press, that used to be a respected news agency, but now they've traded
fallen in line.
Yeah, they've traded in there, as one person put it, that they've traded their notebooks and pens in for knee pads, just getting down and burning incense and worshiping at this. But so the acrimonious, the Barack Obama is halfway to an EGOT. You know what that is? The acronym is an Emmy, a Grammy. He's already got the Grammy. Got
For what?
For narrating his the 2 autobiographies.
Oh my goodness!
That were written by Bill Ayers, and then there's the Tony and the Oscar. So that's so consequently the EGOT. So he's halfway there. He's got the Emmy and he's got the Grammy.
Doesn't he also have a Nobel Peace Prize? Doesn't he also have a Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah. He got a Nobel Peace Prize for being Barack Obama.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Trump didn't get any Nobel Peace Prize when he had 3 peace deals in the Middle East. Is that right?
When they used to, it was amazing to me when they always used it. Every time they said, the Middle East peace process, I'd fall off the couch in hysteria. There was no Middle East peace process. But this guy, who apparently had no international experience whatsoever, went and got in the face of our NATO allies and said, "You're not paying your dues. You signed this treaty with us. You were supposed to pay X amount of percentage of your GDP on defense, and we've been paying for it. The game is over. It's time for you to start." Oh, he's insulting around. He's going to start World War III. He's insulted our allies. And what happened? They started paying. They didn't pay,
nearly
enough, but at least they started coughing up some more dough and started coming. And then he tells Angela Merkel, the incompetent boobette that was in charge of Germany, said, "You're shutting down your nuclear power plant. Have you lost your feeble mind? You're going to be depending on Russia's building this pipeline for us here. We're going to buy our energy from Russia. There's a good idea."
That's worked out really well for them, and I believe they were all laughing at him when he was giving.
Oh, laughing!
Right.
They were saying that he was causing this division. And that was, we were losing our respect internationally. I don't care if we lost our respect internationally. I don't want them to respect us. I want them to fear us.
I 100% agree with that. I would rather be feared than loved.
Amen. Absolutely. In this world, are you kidding? And then he got rid of the Iran nuclear war, nuclear deal that came up with it. That all of a sudden that Biden has acquiesced and gone back to, along with the World Health Organization and all other wastes of money that we have in this country.
This is the thing that is so frustrating. Why every time something starts working, we have someone come in and undo things that are working? I don't like that every time we switch presidents, the policy changes so much and so drastically that it's almost like whiplash.
What if you were going to school and you took arithmetic class one year and you went and you got a new teacher the next year when you went to the next grade and said 2 times 2 is not 4 anymore. It's now 4.6 because 2.2 times 4 is racist. I can't make this up.
That's why kids don't know how to do math these days still.
And the pandemic didn't help either.
No.
In fact, we've seen how far behind we are, and because of at least 2 years behind, and may never catch up because of these stupid close downs of these schools where we were in virtual learning, where the kids learned virtually nothing. But at least of the silver lining to that cloud was that parents finally found out what their kids were being taught in schools, and they didn't like it. Suddenly started showing up at PTA meetings and at
school board meetings and running for office.
And then, they were considered the terrorists. Suddenly white supremacy, suddenly the biggest domestic terrorists were the biggest threat to America's democracy. Those Democrats sure love our precious democracy, don't they?
The thing that's mind-blowing is that I don't think that they could have ever anticipated what the reaction would be once parents started to learn.
Don't poke Mama Bear.
Yeah. what was going on in the schools, and the fact that we've been able to flip both, I believe the county that Miami's in flipped to a conservative school board.
Yeah.
And then there was some counties in Texas that also flipped to being conservative again as well, which is good news. We were unable to do that here in Chatham County, but I think that, it's a long road, but we'll get there.
And Glenn Youngkin comes out of nowhere in Virginia, and his entire campaign issue was the public schools and the lousy state of education in Virginia. And guess who won the election?
Glenn Youngkin.
By pretty much a landslide. Against a well-established Democrat who had already been governor, I think, once in that state.
And was terrible.
And was terrible, yeah. So
and also told people that parents had no right to tell teachers what to teach their kids.
That's right, yeah.
How was that even
they are
possible?
the professionals. They are the ones who know how to do this. So you don't have any right to tell them what to do. Now, I agree that I don't have any right to tell my surgeon how to remove my gallbladder. I don't know anything about that. But we do have a right to tell our teachers what we want taught, and we want reading, writing, and arithmetic, something that is actually useful in not only here, but in the world. Our kids aren't competing, if you are from Savannah, our kids aren't competing against kids from Savannah anymore. They're competing against kids from Charleston. They're competing against kids from Boise. They're competing against kids from Tokyo, from Bombay.
Well, I think that in Chatham County, we're not competing well in Georgia, and we're also not competing well in the U.S., but also the U.S. is not competing well against other countries at all. I think we are ranked 50th in education right now.
And we spend more money on education than any other country in the. There's no comparison. There is no comparison how much money we spend on education, and I have a book that ranked the state's spending on education. And Brittany, you may be familiar with this. You know which state spends the least amount of money on education and gets the best results?
I think it's Utah.
I believe it's Utah.
We have a lot of kids in Utah.
I think the average, at least the last one I showed, and don't quote me specifically on this, but it was something like $5,500 a student.
Yeah.
Is what Utah spends, and they do very, very well.
They're not perfect. I will say that we have some of that CRT and stuff coming
into
the schools in Salt Lake County, which is where the big city is, and we have a lot of Californians moving in, which has been really fun and exciting for people that are from there. So
I'm still looking. I was in Salt Lake City once, and I'm still looking for the lake. So please tell me where it is.
It's there, Bill.
Is it? Okay,
the Great Salt Lake.
I didn't see it.
Come on, Bill.
I didn't.
We produce the most salt out of anywhere.
Well, good.
Yes.
and we could certainly use it. But take this with a grain of salt. When we're spending here in Chatham County, Georgia, which is Savannah, over $1,200 to $1,300 a student. And we are way behind the national average. Way behind even the national average.
Well, I think we spend more in the administration than we do on actual teachers and children.
Exactly.
Is that accurate?
We've mentioned that as well, that I'm trying to find out, and I never can seem to find out, how much money we're paying directors of diversity at the University of Georgia, and you fill in the blank for which education institution that you wish to look into. But we have these people who are directors of diversity, and they're getting, I think I believe the lowest salary I ever saw for one of these people was $90,000, and that was like a Squeedunk Tech or something, somewhere in Bootscuff, Nebraska. It is pathetic. And we talk about the high cost of education. I know where we can. I know where we can live. Yeah, I know where we could. I know where we could save millions of dollars, just like that.
It wouldn't be hard to cut that
out. Get rid of the Department of Diversity. And it's interesting. They only care about the diversity of skin color. Diversity of thought is not in the equation.
Oh no! If you're a conservative, man, being on a college campus is not where you want to be right now.
There is a great video that we're going to show you later this week from Project Veritas. We showed you one last week of one of the things that they did, but they have another one now where they're interviewing the director of whatever at the New York, I think it's New York City's most expensive private school.
$60,000 a year.
$60,000 a year to go to this place, and she's telling the Project Veritas guy in a hidden camera investigation. Yeah, of course we teach kids what to think, not how to think. We want to make sure that they understand, and that we bring in the drag queens and make sure that they have this diversity of education from that standpoint.
And extra credit for being an activist.
And somebody said, and we want to make sure people's about religious backgrounds and things of that nature. So what if you hired somebody that was Catholic? So, or you found out when you're going through the hiring process they were Catholics, that we wouldn't hire them.
And I think he asked her as well, how do you know? How do you know if someone is religious?
Right.
And they're like, there are questions that you can ask that you can identify that. I mean, that's pretty,
Yeah.
that's awful.
$60,000 a year to go to this school.
But you can't be religious.
And you can't teach kids how to think. You have to teach them what to think.
Indoctrination at its finest, though.
When in 1958, I remember this as a kid, when Nikita Khrushchev was the prime minister, or the whatever, of the Soviet Union, premier of the Soviet Union. He is at the UN banging his shoe on the desk and saying that we will bury you, and we will do it without firing a shot. And here we are, some almost 60 years later, with teachers who are teaching kids what to think and not how to think.
It's a big problem, a very big problem. And I think that's why we're seeing people really focus in on this activism and use talking points. And when you ask them questions, they walk away from you. They don't want to have a discussion because they can't.
Rah, 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 sis, boom, bah. Let's hear it for the AR-15 and a group of cheerleaders up in North Carolina that are having a raffle to give away a AR-15 rifle. I love it. That's coming up next here on Get Real America.
The last 3 years, Georgia's been tested in ways we could never imagine. And it fell to Governor Brian Kemp to successfully lead us during these troubling times. Georgia is still first in the nation for business. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in state history. Today, people come to Georgia to succeed, start a business, raise a family. Kemp has always backed the blue, stopping the radical left from defunding local police. He passed a tough new election integrity bill that, as the governor likes to say, made it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And while some during COVID-19 shut down their economy, Kemp kept our schools and businesses open while keeping Georgians safe. A long list of accomplishments: fighting human trafficking, increasing teacher pay, greater access to quality health care. A governor who works for Georgians. All of us. Governor Brian Kemp.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
And I'm Brittany Brown.
And happy Labor Day.
Always exciting. And we are laboring today.
We are. So we're taking advantage of that, and once again thanking our truckers who are making sure that that food gets on the shelf or any other thing. Have you noticed, Brittany, before we get into this cheerleader story, that the media, one of the biggest powers that the media has is the power to ignore. When there's a story, a really big story that comes out that they don't like, they don't cover it very long. How long did it take to get rid of the story of the shooter, the Biden voter, or actually he was a Bernie Sanders supporter who tried to kill all the Republicans at a baseball game?
I mean, it was
practice for a baseball game.
Maybe a 48-hour news cycle, maybe.
Yeah. Had it been just the opposite, had that been a Trump supporter shooting up the Democrats, it would still be on the front page of the New York Slimes.
Well, but that's the thing. You see a lot of these shooters that have come out, and once you start doing a deep dive on them, they end up not being the super ultra MAGA white supremacists that they want them to be, and then all of a sudden you don't hear anything. It's very strange. I
remember how when the shooting that took place in Arizona during the campaign, when who was the congresswoman that was shot? And they had, and also Mike Kelly, who's now the senator out there. His wife was injured. A 9-year-old girl was killed, and they tried to blame that on Sarah Palin. because she said she used this awful rhetoric. I want you to juxtapose this with what we heard from President Biden last Thursday. She said, we need to target our opponents. Oh, that meant shooting their opponents, according to that's a colloquialism. It is just an expression of speech.
Right. But that's how they're saying that words are weapons, and that, you can't say this if it hurts my feelings. That's how we've gotten here, and how they've been able to use it against also President Trump for the January 6th stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, he said patriotically and peacefully protest, and I took other things out of context in his speech and has used that against him.
And you can bet that the most of the insurrection supposedly that took place, it wasn't an insurrection, but the storming of the Capitol, because mobs have their own. All of a sudden, there is a mob mentality, and you get caught up in the emotion of the. But we know we have eyewitnesses who said they saw people who were Antifa and Black Lives Matter changing their clothes actually at the rally to put on Trump paraphernalia to go into the Capitol. So we know that this was inspired by the left, and now there's this kangaroo court that's going on now. All these people appointed by Nancy Pelosi and her Confederates, and they are accusing us of the insurrection, as it were.
And it's what they did. And we saw the riots of 2020. They were all encouraging that. Kamala Harris bailing people out. And then they're going to turn around and tell us, political violence is not acceptable.
There were 500 riots around the country. Beautiful little communities. Kenosha, Wisconsin, just for an example. Where? And They've got they're burning buildings, they're destroying people's property, and you've got the cretins from the Communist News Network standing there saying, people, but it's mostly peaceful. The guy's standing in front of a bonfire, but it's mostly peaceful. It wasn't a pep rally. Oh, speaking of pep rallies, there's a nonprofit organization in North Carolina that is raising money for young athletes and cheerleaders, has stoked some backlash after they started offering a rifle as a prize in a fundraiser. So they were having a raffle, and the prize was an AR-15 type rifle. And some people really got their shorts in a wad over this. And God love them for standing up and saying, I don't care what you say, we need the funds. People like this is not an assault. We have an assault weapon. No, this guy got up and explained it. No. An assault weapon is something that's fully automatic. These aren't fully automatic weapons.
Well, that's the thing. When you start banning things that people are allowed to have for auction and different things like that, especially, there's a lot of hunting that goes on in this area, in the Carolinas and down here.
And that's the reason that the AR-15 was invented to begin with. It was invented in 1958. First came out, stands for Armalite rifle, doesn't stand for assault rifle, as some of the left-wing media wants you to know. I even heard some of the people here on our media, and I won't mention it was WJCL, but they said that it was that this was actually called an automatic weapon that had been used, and they made great capital of the fact that the one in Uvalde, Texas, was made by a gun manufacturer here in right outside Savannah, Daniel Defense.
And that's
why was that?
What does that have to do with anything?
No, it doesn't. The weapon did what it was supposed to do. You pull the trigger and it goes bang. If you pull the trigger and it doesn't go bang, you've got an issue. But Daniel Defense makes some of the best weaponry and some of the best firearms, and our military uses them extensively. That weapon protects people. Because it was used by a bad guy for something, I don't recall, and so they dragged this guy in front of a congressional committee. Marty Daniel, great guy, one of America's great success stories. He started this company here about 10 or 12 years ago, from just nothing, one of those things out of the garage.
Crazy. It's amazing.
And developed developed this into one of the great armorers in the world, and the quality of their product is beyond reproach. And he's hauled in front of Congress to explain what his advertising strategy was. So I suppose they thought he was going to say, boy, this rifle sure is good for shooting children. I don't think that's the strategy that they used. Remember the Christmas parade last year in speaking of Wisconsin?
I know they were supposed to ban Ford Explorers, I think.
Yes. This guy comes through and runs over. It's another one of those stories that the media covered for 15 minutes.
I mean, it was on and off here in a snap of a finger.
Because the guy was a person of color, and it didn't fit the narrative, and probably was a Biden voter. Goes breaking through and kills 6 people, I believe, and injures and maims several others, dozens of others. And I don't recall the CEO of the Ford Motor Company being called before a congressional committee saying, what is it about what kind of advertising have you been doing to say that your car is good for running into Christmas parades?
I mean, they are very good at this narrative, and I think one thing that the CEO of Daniel Defense did say was, this is an accountability problem. We're not holding people accountable. You guys are trying to blame a gun, which cannot act on its own. So until we start having people take accountability for their own actions, I mean, we can't blame a thing.
I have a lot of guns, including my dad's gun. It's a Colt 6 little revolver. Yeah. It was called the Pocket Positive, and it's probably 80 years old. And you know the only time it's ever gone off in those 80 years? When somebody pulled the trigger. I have several weapons. I don't have an arsenal at home, but I do have several firearms, and I do carry. None of those guns have ever gone off in all the years that I've had them unless I pulled the trigger.
Yep, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in an earlier episode about people learning how to hold guns and learning to respect the gun, which is super important. But this person in Uvalde, they shouldn't have ever come into possession of a gun.
No.
But I believe that it was a grandparent or a parent that signed for him to be able to have those guns.
And or he actually took it, stole it from his grandparents. And then we get the horrifying footage of the police standing around for 2 hours and not doing anything while people are desperately calling 911. Now, you will not find bigger supporters of the police than we are.
But going and getting sanitizer while you can hear gunshots going off in the background and children are the target, I'm sorry, I cannot support that.
We saw something very similar in Lost Wages when they had that big when that country concert was going. The guy started
Vegas?
Guy started shooting all those people at that country concert, and finally it took months to get it, but security footage coming up out of the hotels of officers who were standing about one floor down and on the same floor. Finally, it took months to get it, but security footage coming up out of the hotel, and they didn't even see them. Didn't even see them making any effort to get into this guy's room and stop him.
And so they just let it go on.
And it didn't even see them.
I have not seen that footage, but that's disturbing. Very disturbing.
The same thing happened.
So they just let it go on.
When we had
have not seen that footage, but it's disturbing.
You saw.
Very disturbing.
You mentioned the hand sanitizer. If you haven't seen it,
it's unbelievable.
The footage of them standing outside. They're in the hall, and they've got full body armor. And this guy goes over, I guess he went over the hand sanitizer about 10 or 15 times.
And then another guy was checking his text messages. I don't know what he was doing, but he was on his phone.
So he had the cleanest hands in America, waiting on, I don't know what they were waiting on, but kids were dying while they're standing out in the hall. And who finally came to the, I remember when I heard the news say that a Border Patrol agent had gone in and gotten this guy. And I was like, a Border Patrol agent?
Yeah.
How did he get involved?
I believe that he had a child there.
His wife, I believe, called him, who was a teacher there, and said, we need some help. And he came to the rescue. And they tried to keep him out.
Yep. They tried to keep parents out. There was a lady that went into the school and took both of her children. She's like, my kids are not going to die in there.
Exactly.
And, she wasn't armed. She had nothing.
So my hat's off to this cheerleading team up in North Carolina, and hats off to this guy who talked to WLOS the ABC affiliate up there, said, "We aren't offering an assault rifle. We're offering an FN-15 patrol carbine." Spokesman for told Fox News Digital, said, "This is an Armalite 15 style rifle. It's not fully automatic, which is a definition excludes it from classified as an assault rifle." Said, "We are following the ATF guidelines, that its item is being held in an FFL, which is firearms firing license type thing." Said a recipient must complete an ATF form 4473. They must pass a NICS background check before taking possession of it. And he said, said some critics took issue with the prize of choice, saying this is killing children. No, from Daniel Defense or Sig Sauer or Glock or anybody else are defending children. Just because somebody uses it incorrectly is not the gun manufacturer's fault.
No, and when are we going to hold people accountable for these things? And also deal with the real problem. We have people on those SSR1s that is creating a lot of this. We have broken homes that are creating children that are unstable, and we're not dealing with the mental health issue that's plaguing the country.
Or we're drugging our kids.
Exactly.
And the head of this organization he said, "We're a private group. We're not affiliated with the school itself. Our kids go there, and they cheer for the team, and I think they're also raising money for their wrestling team as well." And they said, "We need funds. We're not getting these funds. We have to raise them somewhere. Rifles are a part of our culture. They are used for hunting, and the AR-15 was developed as a hunting rifle." And you can't go by, the former governor of New York said, "You don't need 15 rounds in a magazine to kill a deer." Well, we're not shooting the deer 15 times.
Well, not only that, if I have the option to have 5 bullets or 13 when someone's entering my home, I'm going to choose 13.
Yeah, 13
every
is going
time.
to be a good one. In fact, 300 would be fine. Hats off to that. I loved this deputy sheriff down in Florida some years ago, where they said, "Well, the suspect that you killed, he was shot 60 times. How do you explain that?" He said, "We ran out of ammunition." God love him. All right, coming up next, we haven't run out of ammunition. There's still a lot more to talk about today on this Labor Day 2022 here on Get Real America. There's still a lot more.
Hi, this is Herschel Walker. I want to endorse Bruce Thompson as our new Labor Commission because he's going to do the best job you've ever seen for the great state of Georgia.
Listen, I'm standing here with the great Herschel Walker. We all know what's happened in our U.S. Senate. It's time for a change, and I 100% endorse Herschel Walker to represent Georgia and the United States as we take back our country for the people of Georgia and for the United States.
God bless.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I want to take what she's taking.
I know. Can we get some of whatever that is? I mean, I don't think it's just plain coffee. I'm just going to say.
Here it is, Labor Day. We're glad to have you aboard, and we are saluting those who are coming to our rescue and are still on the job, and that is our truckers. And and also the people that work at our ports and all of our shipping lanes, because they are the ones who actually keep food on the shelves, which is, maybe getting a little more scarce as time goes along because of stupid regulations. All of these shortages, everything else that we have for the most part has been self-inflicted. There is no excuse for us not going after our own oil and all the products that we get from it, including, products to make fertilizers and things of that nature that our farmers are having such a tough time getting. So now we're going after, speaking of things that come out of the earth, Hyundai is building a car plant here in the Savannah area in Bryan County, which is just nearby.
That is so exciting, Bill.
It
so
is.
exciting. I love it when they bring industry here.
They're going to be employing, I don't know where they're going to get them, but they want to hire 8,000 people or more.
You know where they're going to get
facility.
You know where they're going to get those employees?
Illegal aliens coming across the border?
I mean, that
'Cause
could.
we got plenty of those.
Yeah, I mean, no, we're going to pay for them.
Oh,
We're actually, most people are going to have to get a second job and they can work at Hyundai. Pay for the illegal aliens to stay in apartments for free and get cell phones and all of that. But also, it's going to be taking away from small businesses that are already struggling to find employees right now.
and we had mentioned Daniel Defense earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Marty Daniel, the owner, CEO, said he's worried that when this plant opens, they're going to be paying a lot more. Than he's got good people that he pays very well, but this plant is going to pay a lot more. So he may lose maybe half or more of his employees to this facility. Now, that being said, there shouldn't be a shortage. We ought to have plenty of well-educated people that are ready to go and get this taken care of. We had a facility here that came here some years ago, JCB, that make the land moving equipment. Got a huge manufacturing facility right here in Chatham County.
Mm-hmm.
But they came close to closing within 2 years after they opened because of the uneducated workforce here. They actually had to go out of town, had to have big, this is long before the pandemic. This is when workers were still available. But they had to have all these job fairs. They had to go to foreign countries to get people. They could find somebody who knew how to turn, a wrench. But it was reading the tech manuals or making the tech manuals that make this magnificent facility machine work was the big problem. Fortunately, they got that straightened out. I don't know how much Hyundai is going to have a problem here, but my objection to the Hyundai plant, it's going to be their first electric car manufacturing facility in the world. Electric cars, so damaging to the environment. These environmentalists, they keep telling us, like the idiot who's the transportation secretary, one of my favorites, Pete Bootylicious.
Oh, he loves transportation so much.
He
got
certainly
engaged
does.
there.
Couldn't get potholes filled in South Bend, Indiana, but now he's transportation secretary.
He's amazing.
Who took 3 months off during the pandemic and during the supply shortage crisis.
And no one noticed. No one noticed. He was gone. That's how important he is.
That was for maternity leave.
Yes.
But now but now they're going to build its electric car electric car manufacturing facility. I'm sorry, the electric car is a boondoggle. It is a joke. And when they start telling you that, you won't have to pay that high price for gas anymore.
Well,
excuse me. I get a bill from Georgia Power every month, and electricity ain't free. I can promise you that.
No, it's not. But they're going to tell you when you can and can't charge that electric car, so they're going to be able to control how much power we're using.
This is the batteries in Gavin Newsom's irony meter have already gone dead and been dead for some time now. The incompetent boob in charge of California, telling people out there now, there's a problem with our electric grid. I think they had an atomic power plant. Another atomic power plant they were getting ready to shut down. He said, we're going to extend the life of that plant just a little bit more because we do need the electricity. Oh, do you think?
What was your first clue? The fact that you guys are going through rolling blackouts right now and brownouts? Is that part of that?
I have my father-in-law lives out there.
Oh, how's he doing?
Not well. It's incredible. He has a trucking facility, not a trucking manufacturer. He operates a trucking line.
Okay.
And it's a small one, and he's not having a lot of trouble, finding drivers or anything like that. But again, going through all the regulations and everything else. But here they have told him, they've just passed legislation in California, said by 2035, is it?
Yep. That
you have to have an electric car. No more electric cars will be sold in California. They won't be allowed in California unless it's an electric car. And then they tell people, because of the electric shortage that we have, don't charge your electric car.
So does that mean that you're locked in your house again and you can't go to work, Bill?
There were some people, I think, that were trapped in some of those forest fires.
Oh my goodness.
They couldn't get out because their car wasn't charged. They had a police chase that was going on out in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. They had to break off the chase because the police vehicle was running out of electricity.
Oh no. I was going to say that might work in their benefit if the police have gas-powered vehicles and the suspects only can drive electric cars, but I don't think it's going to work that way.
How do we charge these things?
I believe that it's by coal, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah, so if you have an electric car, you've got a coal burner. But first of all, finding a charger. You might want to start shopping at Whole Foods because they have a free one for you out there.
Yes, well, and a lot of gas stations, the newer gas stations are putting them in. I see people lined up to charge their cars. I'm like, no. And they're all sitting in their cars on their phones or reading.
Lined up to charge their cars.
Yes, you heard that right.
So we're in a hurricane evacuation mode. Let's say that we are, and we are not. Please don't.
We've had a good season so far, Bill. Don't jinx us.
Exactly, but people are evacuating. Even you folks up in the Northeast, you have storms that you evacuate for, and many times, or you had
even right
the
now,
perfect
North
storm,
Georgia.
Sandy. Yeah, we got a state of emergency in North Georgia right now because of all the flooding that's going on.
Yeah.
12 inches of rain fell overnight in the last in the last 48 hours up in North Georgia, near Chattanooga, the Rome area, and places like that, Floyd County and Chattooga County. And what happened? If those people had electric cars,
they couldn't go anywhere.
They couldn't, or they could go maybe as far as the car could take them, but where would they charge them? If we're evacuating for a storm, what's one of the first things that goes out in a storm?
The electricity.
The electricity.
Well, and if you don't have your car charged all the time,
yeah,
like if you only have half a charge or a quarter of a charge, I mean, you really can't go anywhere.
Not very far. And then, so what are you going to be doing if you're stuck out on the interstate? It used to be that AAA or somebody could come by and dump in a couple of gallons in your car, and you could get to the next gas station. What do we wait for now? The Energizer Bunny to come by? And how long does it take to charge a car? As opposed to when you go to fill up with gas, how long does that take? If you drive right to the pump, you're empty. I mean, you're just practically dead empty. You're running on fumes. How long does it take to fill up?
Well, my car probably about 3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes. How long does it take? And if you charged a car for 3 to 5 minutes, what do you suppose you could get?
Probably nothing, Bill.
Arrested for loitering. And
when will they learn their lesson?
And the electricity is going to come from where?
The windmills.
Facilities. Yeah,
the
windmills
windmills and the solar panels.
Ask the folks in Texas how much they like the windmills when they had that winter storm last year, and the windmills froze. So now they've equipped them with these heating coils or something like that, so they won't freeze anymore. And earlier in the show, in case you didn't hear, because from our irony department, that Amazon has had to close down some of its distributing facilities because the solar panels on the roof are catching fire, absorbing too much solar energy. And wind farms may not be able to operate in many cases during storms because the wind is blowing too hard. I think 40 miles an hour is about the maximum speed for wind for these windmills.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is it doesn't work. We've seen it time and time again fail, and I don't think that they're ever going to learn their lesson. And going back to the fact that they're building a Hyundai plant here, they're also building in Rutledge a Riviera,
Georgia.
A Riviera plant, which is also electric cars. So we're going to have 2 plants here making electric cars.
Send up a flare.
And here's the other thing. We're going to have, Stacey Abrams is running on this environmental platform right now, and we now have these 2 electric car facilities going in. It's like, is this really what Georgia believes? I mean, are we really that pro-environmental?
Stacey Abrams, and I see so many Stacey Abrams signs around town, and I just want to stop and knock on the door and say, just how stupid are you?
Well, I just want to ask them some questions. So what is it about Stacey Abrams that you love? What is it?
Because she accomplished nothing when she was in the Georgia legislature.
Well, and she also, I mean, the only thing that I've seen is that she wants to run on this environmental platform, which we've seen fail over and over again. Look at California. Look at some of these places. It's not a winning message. It's not a winning goal. And she'll cook us dinner. That's basically what I've gotten out of.
That's basically
out of her.
what we've gotten out of her commercials. That she will come over to your house and cook dinner. So there's that, and I'm sure she's a great cook. You can tell, but at the same time, what is she going to do for us legislatively besides destroy the state? And didn't she just say that this was the worst state in America?
I believe we
this
just
is
saw
the worst state.
a commercial about that.
She hated. She didn't like living here because it's the worst state in America. Then what are you doing? And thank you, Stacey, for all of the millions of dollars you cost the black entrepreneurs up in Atlanta when you convinced Major League Baseball last year to move the All-Star game over to Denver. Then it has some of the most restrictive and the least amount of voting population black-wise and least black businesses practically in the country. Unbelievable. And I was surprised that they actually let him play the World Series here. I thought maybe they'd play the World Series in Denver too. We go to Houston and Denver for the World Series with the Atlanta Braves.
I'm sorry, that was the best comeback ever for them to win and have to come back and play in Atlanta.
Exactly.
It kind of was. It was a good hoorah for them.
But she caught once she and Raphael Warnock, the other empty suit that we have up there in Washington. He was actually another one of those who was, encouraging Major League Baseball to go. When suddenly it dawned on him, wait a minute, this brings in money, and after the pandemic with everything else, these businesses, mostly black businesses around the Atlanta, around the stadium, were desperate. And they said, boy, we sure could use that revenue that's going to be coming in. And when reality dawned on them, Stacey was suddenly, oh no! Wait a minute! Don't take the game. We don't approve of our new voting method because we won't be able to cheat anymore and vote for Democrats and reelect Democrats. But we want you to come here. By this time, it was too late. They'd already moved the game over to Denver, and that was that.
I don't think they realize the damage that they do until their narrative starts working against them, and then you see the backpedaling.
This is not what we elected you for.
You're not PR for us. Stop.
This is not what in fact, all of these politicians in Washington, for the most part, I don't care what party they're in, do your job. That's not what you were. Read the Constitution, for God's sake. Do what you were elected to do. You were not elected to take our money from us and then give it to somebody else who hasn't earned it. That's not what your job is for. Your job is not to keep us from defending ourselves. This Democrat Party does not care about America. The biggest threat to our precious democracy, by the way, it's a representative republic, is hated by the Democrat Party. They hate you. That's why they've just hired 89,000 new IRS agents, or at least trying, and arming them, some with automatic weapons. And they said, and I believe in part of the job application, Brittany, was, are you willing to use deadly force if necessary? Now,
yes.
if I'm incorrect on that, please.
They deleted it, Bill. You'll never find that. They deleted it. So, it was on there, but you will not find that anywhere.
So we're lying.
Yes, exactly.
So now
we're
lying.
You get it.
We've been lying to you. Yeah, we're just making this stuff up. No, you can't make this stuff up. So they hate America. Why would they be letting thousands and thousands of people across our border and saying that they're not? When you listen to Karine Jean-Pierre, the propaganda minister.
Or Mayorkas is, he needs to go.
Mayorkas, if his IQ, I don't think, is quite approaching double digits.
No.
But along with Karine Jean-Pierre, the most incompetent boobette in the history of mankind as far as press secretaries go.
Yeah, when you have Joe Rogan comparing Kayleigh McEnany to this woman, and he says Kayleigh McEnany is the Michael Jordan of press secretaries, and then you have Jean-Pierre, and you're like, how did she get this job? I mean, we all know how she checked a couple boxes, but
She checked off a lot of boxes.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that. Oh my gosh. It is. We want to hear from you. Okay. Like us on Facebook. Send comments on Facebook and all the other platforms, and because we'd like your comments, we'd like to hear from you. Pretty soon we're going to be still able to take phone calls from you.
Yes.
And we've got special guests coming on. We've notified the governor, Governor Brian Kemp. He wants to be on with us shortly. Kelly Loeffler, former state senator, is campaigning around the state for Governor Kemp, as well as for who's running?
Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker, yeah, that's the guy. Boy, senior moment. And so she's going to be in town shortly. She's going to be talking with us. And coming up this week, we have also something really special on Thursday.
yes, we will have an interview with someone that is doing a movie, and it's about her life story of giving her baby up for adoption and also being on the table ready to get an abortion and making the decision not to. So very exciting. Her name is Melissa Coles, and we're going to be talking to her this week, which is going to be fun.
And what's really cool is that is it a movie that they're making about her?
Yeah, it's called Life Mark. Kirk Cameron. You know who that is, don't you?
Yeah.
He is
Growing
in the
Pains.
movie. Yes, he's in the movie, and he also produced it.
Kirk has become one of the most dynamic Christians ever. And it dawned on him as a child. I've heard his coming to Jesus moment, as it were, when he was doing Growing Pains, when he was still a teenager, and he was kind of agnostic at one point. And he said suddenly he realized that he was part of the 100% of people who die.
Oh.
And where he was going to spend eternity suddenly became an issue for him. And he has become one of the most dynamic Christians. The great things that they do, and his organization does. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this lady talk, and hopefully we get to meet Kurt one of these days.
Yes, it's one of our goals. So we're excited to talk about that this week and continue to
talk more about it, more about abortions, and the party that just loves to kill babies.
Yes, but we're the extremists on this end of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be back tomorrow.
Will we?
Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday.
So we'll do that tomorrow. But we'll be back with more on the party that loves to kill kids next.
Yes,
Get
on
Real
this
America.
end.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your governor speaking. Today's training evolution, dogfighting, taking on the corporate media. The rules of engagement are as follows. Number 1, don't fire unless fired upon, but when they fire, you fire back with overwhelming force. Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill. Number 2, never ever back down from a fight.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or ask a question? Number 3, don't accept their narrative. It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts. It's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's turn up.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America. Freedom is under attack in your state. Dictator Ron DeSantis incredibly lets you walk around without masks. That tyrant allows your kids to go to school during the pandemic, year 2 or 4, or who the hell knows. I urge you living in Florida to join the fight. Or join us in California, where we'll take the money you earn and give it to people who don't work. Visit San Francisco, where you can walk through human feces. If you're lucky, you might step on a syringe. Check out Los Angeles, where gas is so expensive, your kids only need to skip a meal or 2 or 10 to afford it. California, where freedom means lockdowns for you, while I go to the places you can't afford. Don't let them take your freedom. Come to California, where we'll take it, along with your money.
First of all, what I can do to make things better is bring people together. I love this country. I believe in peace through strength. If we have no strength, we're gonna have no peace. I believe in backing the blue. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that everybody should have a chance to have their faith. Do we have problems? Yes. Can we solve them? Yes. Georgia is my family. The United States is my family. So I'm gonna fight and take care of them. I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Get Real America, and we are going to continue on what the Democrats don't support.
Yeah, this is this precious democracy that they keep saying that they care about, and that MAGA, the ultra MAGA Republicans, as the president put it last Thursday, and they keep doubling down on that, on the non-political speech that he was making at Independence Hall that looked like he was in Dante's Inferno or something. Hitler and Stalin would have loved this guy.
Oh, they would have. And he could be transposed into any of their backgrounds as well, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Wouldn't worry about a thing. So they hate America. We've got these thousands of illegal aliens that are pouring across the border. And when Greg Abbott has the governor of Texas has the unmitigated gall to put a few hundred of them on a bus and send them to these sanctuary cities, the ones that said that they are so welcoming, and suddenly they get their shorts in a wad at those places saying, why, how dare he's in it. We had 40 illegal aliens come in here today, and we need federal help here. Why don't you take some of that money you used to defund the police and to help those folks out? I believe New York City cut over $1 billion out of the New York City police budget.
Yep.
So, Mayor Adams, use some of that.
Well, not only that, whatever they think that they deserve, okay, for 40 illegal immigrants, what does Texas get in equivalence? Because I think that that's how that game should be played.
4,000. They're dealing with Greg Abbott was saying, okay, you're dealing with what, maybe they get 400.
Yeah.
So we get 4,000 a day, and they don't come into a big city like New York City. They come into these little old places, Eagle Pass or wherever, that have practically no facilities whatsoever. There was a bus that stopped in North Georgia.
Yep.
Just recently, that was letting the illegal aliens off, and what they were trying to do, the bus driver was trying to get those people off so that they could go back and actually say that they made the trip to Washington, so they get paid for the trip.
Which is weird because Georgia's not on the way to Washington, D.C.
No, it really isn't.
I think that there's a quicker route that they could have taken, which is quite interesting as well.
But the sheriff, to his credit, he said, no, we don't have the facilities for you guys. And those, by the way, those illegals didn't want to get off there in the first place. They were supposed to be going to Chattanooga. And they said, no, we don't want to be here either.
Well, Chattanooga also doesn't have the resources to house these people and take care of them.
But at least they stopped them.
Yep.
And they prevent, and so all of these people are pouring across the border. We don't know who they are. Some of the people they've arrested have already been on the terrorist watch list.
Well, and they're not just coming from South America. I think that that's the thing that people misunderstand. Yeah, I mean, we have people from Egypt, different places in the Middle East coming over.
How did they get here? And yet the greatest tennis player in the world can't play at the U.S. Open.
Oh, well, he's not vaccinated.
Because he didn't able to get a shot. And then when Corinne Jean-Pierre was asked about it by the only competent reporter left in the press corps, practically, is Peter Doocy from Fox, said, why do you let all these people come across the border unvaccinated, unidentified, and yet you won't let Mr. Novich play at the U.S. Open? Excuse me.
Yeah, she is something else. She said that it's not happening, which is what the Democrats do. They definitely just deny what's going on. And Bill, are you okay?
No.
No?
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is what the Democrats do. They deny what's going on. They tell you that it's not happening when it is. And, they aren't vaccinating these people coming across the border. They are letting them come in willy-nilly. And as American citizens, we've been demonized for not getting the vaccine and for not doing what they are telling us to do. And now they're saying, and then all of a sudden the CDC comes back out and says, oh, we're going to treat everyone the same, vaccinated and unvaccinated, after they demonized all of us for not getting vaccinated. We lost our jobs. People were not. Yeah, and we'll talk more right after this break. On the same, vaccinated.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America. Freedom is under attack in your state. Dictator Ron DeSantis incredibly lets you walk around without masks. That tyrant allows your kids to go to school during the pandemic, year 2 or 4, or who the hell knows. I urge you living in Florida to join the fight. Or join us in California, where we'll take the money you earn and give it to people who don't work. Visit San Francisco, where you can walk through human feces. If you're lucky, you might step on a syringe. Check out Los Angeles, where gas is so expensive, your kids only need to skip a meal or 2 or 10 to afford it. California, where freedom means lockdowns for you, while I go to the places you can't afford. Don't let them take your freedom. Come to California, where we'll take it, along with your money.
First of all, what I can do to make things better is bring people together. I love this country. I believe in peace through strength. If we have no strength, we're gonna have no peace. I believe in biking the blue. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that everybody should have a chance to have their faith. Do we have problems? Yes. Can we solve them? Yes. Georgia is my family. The United States is my family. So I'm gonna fight and take care of them.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
Yeah, boy. Well, I'm sorry for that last little episode. One of those things where you get this like feather in your throat or something like that, and there's nothing you can do to get rid of it.
Nope. We just had to cut to break. You guys got to enjoy some Herschel commercials, so
yeah,
it's always exciting.
Little shot of Jack Daniels or something might have helped. I don't know what it was.
We're gonna have to get that on set, just for you, Bill.
This is the story that is so disturbing right now, among other things, is this woman who has been kidnapped in Memphis.
It's crazy. Woman goes out for a run. We've seen this time and time again. When women are abducted, when they are out for a run, they have earbuds in typically, and they're not really paying attention to what's going on around them.
How many times do we have to tell you about about awareness? And many times I have been tempted to, when I see some young lady walk down the street, she's got the earbuds in, she's looking at her phone, and she's walking toward an intersection, and I just want to stand right in front of her until she runs at me and say, situational awareness. And this is one of the things that we teach you in self-defense, as being situationally aware. She's out jogging at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I think she thinks she's safe because she's done it for a long time, but she's at the University of Memphis campus. She's a teacher, 38 years old, or 34. She is an heiress to a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
So someone had been watching what she was doing and kind of got to know her routine.
So they finally have a person of interest, as we say in the biz. I can't pronounce this guy's name. Is it Cleotha? Cleotha. Somebody tell me how to pronounce that. Abston, who shouldn't have been out of jail to begin with. His bond, he has been arrested. His bond's been set at $500,000, which is about $10 million too little. It's just unbelievable. That said they found DNA, and his brother said he saw him out there washing his van. We've got footage of her struggling with somebody being thrown into this guy's van. He was arrested 20 years ago for doing the same thing in Memphis. A prominent Memphis attorney thrown into the back of his SUV. Now the attorney survived. We still haven't heard from this lady. Her name is Eliza Fletcher, and we're still waiting to hear. I'm sure her children are still waiting to hear, and the family is offering a $50,000 reward for her release or any information about her whereabouts. And this guy was out washing his car, and his brother said he was acting strangely. So they've got him behind bars, but what was he doing out in front of the bars? It reminds me of the old joke of somebody saying when he saw the wanted posters in the post office, he said, "Why didn't they hold on to the guy when they took his picture?"
It's amazing. And why was he let out of jail? Did he serve his time and then?
I didn't see that part, but the fact that this guy had already done exactly the same thing.
Well, you would think he would be on probation or something, getting out of prison for something like that. And I mean, why do we have these systems in place if they don't work?
Well, to me, probation in many cases has been such a joke anyway.
Yep.
It's like if you were to get one of those restraining orders aren't worth the paper they're printed on.
No.
How many women have been killed, or anybody, people or anybody if you identified as a woman, been killed because you said, well, we got a restraining order against this guy, and he kills them anyway.
Well, and that's the other thing.
Restraining orders don't stop them.
Well, not only that, it's really hard to get those restraining orders. A lot of times the police don't want to help you. They put your life at risk. And I mean, what a dangerous situation. And unfortunately, the longer the time goes by that they don't find her, that the worse it's going to look.
I've never understood why people think that a piece of paper and a judge's order is going to protect them. It isn't. That's why you need to be armed. You need to know how to use it. Sometimes these attacks can come out of nowhere, but again, situational awareness, and there are other options. I mean, maybe the thought of shooting and killing somebody is not. I mean, even though I carry, I pray every day that I never even have to never even have to think about it, but never have to brandish the weapon, much less have to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to kill another human being or shoot at another human being.
No.
The only way that when I was in the Army, I shot at plastic targets and they didn't shoot back. But and that's the only firearms training that I've had is shooting at targets and not at real people. I don't ever want to have to do that. But if I do have to do that to defend myself or members of my family, I will.
Yeah, and as a young woman, I don't carry a gun. However, I do carry mace with me, and I do have a taser because I do think those are good options because I need to get more comfortable with my gun. I do have one. I just am not super comfortable in an emergency situation like that.
I can't recall the name of the product right offhand, but there's another one out that looks very much like it's very similar to a firearm, but it fires a bullet that is like mace.
Oh.
It is a very it explodes on impact on a human body, and it blows all this
I haven't seen that
messy stuff. Yeah, it is very, very effective. So you don't have to kill somebody, but you can incapacitate them.
Yeah.
And something as simple as and as innocent looking, and we tell this especially in office settings or something like that. If somebody comes in and starts one of these mass shooting type things, a can of wasp spray is extremely effective.
I also heard bear spray is really good as well.
I haven't seen bear spray at Home Depot or at the grocery store. I have seen wasp spray, however. It is quite common, and the effective range on that thing's about 20 or 30 feet, and just sitting on the desk, it looks very innocent.
Yeah.
If they had that at something, if the lady in the office at Sandy Hook, let's say, for example, had something like that, this guy comes in, you pick up the wasp spray, you hit him in the face with it, and that would have been over before it started. They would not have been. They would have been incapacitated almost immediately. If this stuff gets in your eyes, you can see nothing for a long time, and it might even and it's even damaging to your eyes. So there wouldn't have been any shooting at that point. And I mean, you can make these speculations all day, but just something as innocent as that for people who are uncomfortable with guns.
Yep. Well, and like I said, taser is a good option. They sell. I mean, for women, they do sell a lot of things that you can put in your purse, and they have a lot of products out there. If you go to a gun show, there's a lot of options.
So, but of course, there's a picture of her out jogging, and so she's very scantily clad. So there's not a lot of room to hide.
She's wearing gym clothes.
Yeah. So it's not a lot of room to hide something along those lines. But you need to be. But
fanny packs are back
be.
in, and you can put stuff in the fanny packs when you
Oh,
run
good.
and things like that.
So people want, even if people make fun of you, you know.
It's 4 a.m, Bill.
I don't understand. You know, I thought fanny packs were pretty darn good invention, and people started making fun of her or something. Why?
They're back. They're back in style,
Well, I'm
Bill.
glad to hear it. And maybe if she had something like that, we wouldn't be talking about this story.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a woman that got kidnapped in Montana, or it was over the North Dakota border, and this was several years ago, but they had taken her, and she was a teacher as well, and she'd been out running, and they killed her. But I mean, women have got to be more aware. I mean, I think that we feel safe a lot of the times, but man, even in Savannah, I don't want to walk around late at night.
And Memphis has not had a good reputation for a long time. I know some people, my own family had visited Memphis, and they said they didn't feel uncomfortable at all, and were walking around downtown and places like that. But they've had a crime problem for quite some time now. It's unfortunate because it's a great city. It's one of my favorites. When I was a student at Ole Miss, that was a great destination because it was only about 60 miles from campus. It took about an hour to get there. It was really neat.
Well, and the Elvis Museum is there, and it's incredible. His house.
And that's
Bill,
on my bucket list.
Bill, you have to go.
I know.
Such a cool thing that is in Memphis, and that's one of your favorite places.
Graceland.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a place that I do would want to check off the bucket list, but just don't want to go to Memphis right now.
No, and I think
that's unfortunate because, like I said, it's a great city. Love you guys.
But how many other cities are on that list, Bill, right now?
Including
and it's
ours.
Yeah, and it's because they are run by people that are letting people out of jail, that are not holding criminals accountable, and I mean, we end up with tragic situations like this.
How can you? How can this? If you're a Democrat, please. I don't know how you live with yourself, but please explain it to me. But how can you say that you're in favor of murdering children in the womb because they stand up for these abortion laws? And why did that? Why is killing babies such a big deal for them? Why is that such an important campaign issue?
I'm not really sure, Bill, and I don't know. There's a commercial that we run too that has President Reagan's voice behind it, and you hear this girl in the background, and she says, "If you want an abortion, you should get an abortion," and she's throwing confetti. And I don't know how we got from safe, legal, and rare to, hey, 9 months, let's be able to get rid of this child. I don't understand it, and I don't know how people can live with themselves.
How do you say it's okay for thousands? It's humane to let thousands of people across your border and not know who they are, where they came from, what their background is, where they speak the language. And you as a taxpayer are having to buy them a cell phone, give them Social Security benefits, educate them, and by the way, you have to educate them in their language. Do you know how many people that they have to employ at the emergency room in one of the big Los Angeles hospitals just as interpreters? I think it's something like 30. But including another one you can't make up, including Klingon. You have to know how to speak Klingon in Los Angeles.
Only in California. Only in California would that be a thing.
Well, you know, we say that, and it seems like that these things that start in California, suddenly it's like a pandemic. It's like a virus. It goes everywhere. One of the things that they're fighting in Virginia right now is that the last incompetent boob that was in charge of that, and legislators in charge of that state, said that whatever California does, we're going to do. So all of a sudden, Winsome Sears, the new fantastic
she is
lieutenant
amazing.
governor,
She's amazing.
She is something else, and a woman of color.
Oh.
Yeah. So she checks off some of those boxes.
Not if she's a Republican.
But she said we're working on legislation to get rid of that piece of crap.
I can't believe that's a thing.
Yeah, so we're going to have nothing but electric cars in Virginia because that's what California did. Whatever California does, we're going to do. What kind of stupidity is that?
Well, especially when you see what a disaster it is in California. The syringes, the needles, the fact that you don't even take home half your income anymore.
I mean, when you look at the success, I don't care what you thought of Donald Trump personally. when you look at the success of what he was able to do in 4 short years with the brickbats and everything else that came his way, two phony impeachments, being called an illegitimate president all the time. But we've questioned the 2020 election, and we're a threat to democracy. They haven't legitimized a Republican election yet. They called George Bush an illegal president for 8 years.
Well, I think it was since the 80s they haven't acknowledged that the winner of the presidency, if it's Republican, they haven't acknowledged it. They've fought it the whole time.
Where was it Iowa, where a Republican congresswoman won by something like 5 votes? And they certified it twice. And yet Nancy Pelosi tried to get it overturned again.
Well, I think she didn't get to actually get to her seat for almost 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
And who are they trying to get rid of here in Georgia in one of those congressional seats?
I think her name is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I believe it is. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, just got swatted.
Twice in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And she also spoke at Trump's rally this week, too. She's a very powerful human, and she is so patriotic. She loves the country, and what else could you ask for someone that represents you?
So I have had some good. I had a dear lady down in Brunswick who was killed in an automobile accident by a drunk illegal alien, and we're letting all these people across the border. And when you hear people like Geraldo Rivera, who
he's the
loves
worst,
to stand up and defend the indefensible, and say, "Well, you have drunk drivers here. It could have been an American." I said, "Well, we don't need to import anymore."
It doesn't excuse the behavior, and it doesn't excuse the fact that he never should have been here, and it never would have happened.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. Maybe it could have been an American citizen, but it wasn't.
How many of those stories? How many times do we have to see this movie, and yet they think we're a threat to their precious democracy when they're letting these thousands of people in? You're paying for it. Give them a cell phone. I love Jen Psaki's answer when they said, "Why are we giving them cell phones so we can keep up with them?" Oh God! Thanks,
Are you following
Jen.
on Facebook, or
Thanks,
what's
Jen.
going on?
No wonder she's at messed up NBC.
Well, the other thing is, Bill, when you look at the human aspect of this too, what they are putting these people through for them to come to America and what they're willing to go through. I mean, the women are being raped. They're trafficking drugs up here. They're owned by the cartels. The children.
Look at the power we're giving the cartels and the money that they are making.
They've never made more money in their lives, and it's off of human trafficking
And
more than it is the drugs.
And all the fentanyl. They talk about the fentanyl that was just the stuff that was confiscated last year. Some of it looking like Skittles because they want to market it to children. Something like 11,000 tons or something of this stuff. That's enough to kill everybody on the planet.
It should not be coming into the country. End of story. End of discussion. It should not be happening.
And it's made by our friends in China.
There always seems to be a link to China, Bill. It's weird.
Doesn't it, though?
It's so weird how that works out.
Well, as the old saying goes, as the old Egyptian undertaker used to say after a hard day's work, that about wraps it up.
So we ask you to follow us on social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, Rumble, Spotify, and Apple. I think I got them all, Bill.
Yep. We'll be back again tomorrow to make fun of liberals because it knows no bounds, it knows no end, and they are bottomless pits. So we will see you then. Remember, you can't spell Democrat without R-A-T. See you tomorrow.
Spotify and Apple.